For decades, the Burj Khalifa was the most powerful symbol of what human ambition could build. A tower so tall it pierced the clouds. A structure so extreme that engineers had to invent new rules just to make it stand. When it opened in 2010, the world stopped and stared. It was not just a building. It was a statement. Dubai was telling the world, we are the future. But something has changed today. If you look past the marketing, past the fireworks on New Year's Eve, past the drone footage flooding social media, you begin to see a different picture. Office floors sitting empty. Residential units without tenants. A tower built to house a new global elite now struggling to fully justify its existence. If you want to understand what is really happening to the world's most famous skyscraper, stay with us. We are tracking the cracks the brochures were never designed to show you. The Burj Khalifa is not just a story about architecture. It is a story about what happens when a city bets everything on one idea, and then that idea becomes more expensive than anyone expected. Let's start not with the decline, but with what made this tower feel inevitable. In the early 2000s, Dubai was attempting something unprecedented in modern history. It was not renovating a city. It was building one from scratch. The desert became the canvas and money became the only rule. The leadership of the United Arab Emirates had a clear strategy: take oil wealth, convert it into infrastructure, and use that infrastructure to attract the world. Tourists. Businesses. Wealthy residents. Global events. The logic sounded simple. Oil eventually runs out. Real estate and tourism do not. The Burj Khalifa became the crown jewel of that vision. Originally named Burj Dubai during construction, it was renamed after Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan following a financial bailout in 2009, a detail that reveals more about Dubai's economic reality than most official press releases ever could. The tower stands 828 meters tall with 163 floors containing offices, luxury residences, hotels, restaurants, and observation decks. When it officially opened on January 4, 2010, more than 1 million people watched the launch celebrations. The fireworks display became one of the largest ever staged at that time. This was not simply a building opening. It was a coronation. And for a while, it worked exactly as planned. The Burj Khalifa became one of the most photographed buildings on Earth. Observation deck tickets sold out months ahead. The Armani Hotel Dubai attracted some of the wealthiest travelers in the world. Apartments inside the tower sold for prices that made developers in London and New York City pay close attention. But symbols only remain powerful when the story behind them continues to feel believable. And that story has become harder to maintain. The first warning signs appeared before the building even opened. Dubai had borrowed enormous amounts of money to fund its expansion. When the 2008 global financial crisis hit, the weaknesses in that model became visible almost overnight. Abu Dhabi stepped in with a massive bailout package reportedly worth around $25 billion. The renaming of the tower was not simply a tribute. It was also an acknowledgement of debt and dependence. Still, Dubai recovered. Investors returned. Property prices rebounded. Throughout much of the 2010s, the Burj Khalifa maintained its status as the ultimate address in one of the world's fastest-growing cities. So what changed? To understand the current situation, you need to understand how the tower actually functions. The Burj Khalifa operates through three major components: office space, residential units, and tourism and hospitality operations. Each tells a different part of the same story. Start with the offices. At its peak, multinational corporations competed for space inside the tower because the address itself carried prestige. Being located in the world's tallest building was not just business, it was branding. But over time, Dubai built office space at a pace far beyond actual long-term demand. Supply exploded across the city. New business districts emerged. Cheaper and more practical alternatives appeared nearby. Companies gradually realized that paying premium prices simply for symbolic height no longer made financial sense. By the early 2020s, analysts, and real estate reports increasingly suggested that large portions of premium commercial space across Dubai were underutilized. Even the Burj Khalifa was affected. Comes the residential side of the story. The apartments inside the tower were originally marketed as some of the most exclusive homes in the Middle East. Buyers came from Russia, India, Europe, and East Asia. Owning a unit in the Burj Khalifa felt like owning a piece of modern history. Prices kept climbing. Then demand started splitting into two completely different groups. The ultra-wealthy increasingly preferred something quieter and more private. Villas on Palm Jumeirah, compounds in Emirates Hills, or newer ultra-luxury developments offering space, privacy, and personalized services. Meanwhile, middle and upper-middle-class buyers who stretched financially to enter the tower began facing a different reality entirely. Rising service charges, maintenance fees, community costs, increasing living expenses across Dubai. The equation that once promised low taxes and higher savings started becoming much harder to justify. As a result, many apartments gradually shifted in a stable residential community. And this is where the Burj Khalifa becomes more than just a building. It becomes a mirror reflecting Dubai itself. Because the same pressures affecting the tower are visible across much of Dubai's premium real estate market. A city built for a version of the future that has not arrived exactly the way it was imagined. Dubai promised glamour, speed, opportunity, and limitless ambition. But those promises became increasingly expensive to maintain. Over the past several years, living costs across Dubai have risen sharply. Housing costs surged. Utilities became more expensive. Inflation affected food and services. The financial advantages that once attracted huge numbers of expatriates have narrowed considerably. And when expatriates leave, premium buildings feel it first. The Burj Khalifa feels it floor by floor. There is another issue almost nobody talks about openly: the tower's own vertical design. The highest penthouses still attract attention, but many ultra-wealthy buyers now prefer a completely different kind of luxury: private estates, fully serviced residences, and environments with fewer shared spaces. Even the world's tallest tower is still ultimately a tower. Elevators are shared. Lobbies are shared. Hundreds of residents coexist under one brand. For the newest generation of global wealth, exclusivity increasingly means privacy rather than visibility. That shift matters enormously. The middle floors of the Burj Khalifa now sit in an awkward position. Too expensive for many professionals. Too mixed use for ultra-private luxury buyers. Too impractical for some corporate tenants. So portions of those floors remain dark. The tourism side still performs relatively well. Millions continue visiting the observation decks every year because the building remains one of the world's most recognizable landmarks. The selfie economy is still real. Alone cannot sustain an entire urban vision. And even tourism patterns are changing. Dubai's visitor numbers continue looking strong on paper, but the composition of those visitors has evolved. Budget travelers and short stopover tourists increasingly make up larger portions of the market, while some higher-spending luxury travelers are exploring alternatives. Regional competition has intensified dramatically. Riyadh is investing aggressively in entertainment and infrastructure. Abu Dhabi has expanded its cultural identity. Doha gained global visibility after the FIFA World Cup and continues positioning itself as a luxury destination. Dubai no longer dominates the regional luxury conversation as effortlessly as it once did. And because the Burj Khalifa became the face of Dubai's global image, every shift in the city's economic identity becomes visible through the tower itself. The real story here is not that the Burj Khalifa is collapsing. It is that the meaning of alone cannot sustain an entire urban vision. And even tourism patterns are changing. Dubai's visitor numbers continue looking strong on paper, but the composition of those visitors has evolved. Budget travelers and short stopover tourists increasingly make up larger portions of the market, while some higher-spending luxury travelers are exploring alternatives. Regional competition has intensified dramatically. Riyadh is investing aggressively in entertainment and infrastructure. Abu Dhabi has expanded its cultural identity. Doha gained global visibility after the FIFA World Cup and continues positioning itself as a luxury destination. Dubai no longer dominates the regional luxury conversation as effortlessly as it once did. And because the Burj Khalifa became the face of Dubai's global image, every shift in the city's economic identity becomes visible through the tower itself. The real story here is not that the Burj Khalifa is collapsing. It is that the meaning of the tower is changing. When the building opened in 2010, height itself symbolized the future. Bigger meant better. Taller meant more powerful. Spectacle was enough to command attention. Today, the global conversation around cities has shifted. The cities generating excitement now are not always the ones with the tallest skylines. They are often the cities focusing on livability, transportation, affordability, sustainability, culture, and long-term quality of life. Dubai mastered spectacle. What it is still trying to master is permanence. How do you create a city people genuinely want to live in long-term, not just visit, not just invest in, not just use as a tax strategy, but actually call home? That is the deeper question hidden inside the Burj Khalifa's empty floors. The tower is not necessarily a symbol of failure. It is something more complicated and more revealing. It is a symbol of transition. Dubai now stands between two identities, the city of spectacle and superlatives, and the city it may need to become in order to remain competitive over the next several decades. A city with deeper economic foundations. A city less dependent on construction cycles and tourism waves. A city where quality of life matters as much as branding. The Burj Khalifa's empty spaces are waiting for that future to arrive. Whether Dubai can evolve fast enough is the real question. Because for the first time in the tower's history, the building once meant to prove that anything is possible is beginning to prove something else instead. That even the most extraordinary structures need substance beneath the spectacle. Not only in steel and concrete, but in the economy, the culture, and the everyday lives of the people expected to call the city home. And that is what is changing in Dubai. Floor by floor, the Burj Khalifa is becoming the most visible reminder of it.